Hey everybody, Aaron here from Movie Battleground, bringing you the newest and latest episode of the show. Today we have an exciting battle as we have a returning player, a newbie to the league. Let's get right to it and introduce them. First up, he is one of the admins here at Movie Battleground. He is currently 1-0 with an unfortunate knockout against his first opponent, Evan DeGraff, in the debut episode of Movie Fights. But not Movie Fights, Movie Battleground. Come on, we all know we're ripping them off. But he's here to bring some vengeance back against his new opponent, Subrath Sharma. Subrath, how you doing?
Before I start, did you say 1-0 or 0-1?
No, I said 0-1. I said 0-1.
Oh, okay. I heard something else. Well, yeah. All I want to do is just, get through this match, without ending it like the last time. That's all I want.
Yeah, you look like you have PT. Okay there, buddy?
Yeah.
All right, and so if Subrath has PTSD...
I just woke up, that's why.
If Subrath has PTSD from this game, then his opponent has PTSD from me. The last time we saw him on a camera, I beat him. Sorry, I had to bring it up. But we're glad to have...
Thanks a lot, buddy.
Don't worry, no personal bias, man. No personal bias. But just so we know, just so I can start the conspiracy theory, if Drake wins, it's because I felt bad for him. If Subrath wins, it's because I work with him. We'll start this conspiracy now.
It's true.
Ladies and gentlemen, he's here making his Movie Battleground debut at 0-0. Drake Froemsdorf. Did I say that right?
Yes, you got it right.
All right,
Nobody
Drake,
gets it right. You got it right. Glad to fight. Glad to be here.
Definitely, and we are excited to get this started. So for those of you who don't know the way the game works, we're going to have 4 main fight rounds. Oh, fuck it. We're going to have 4 battles. These guys are going to have time to go back and forth and argue their picks on why theirs is the better pick for the question asked. If it ends 4-0 in one person's favor, then the match ends with a knockout. If it's 3-1 to a player or 2-2 tied, we go to the speed round. That's 3 questions that we ask the players, and they have a very limited amount of time to both answer and give their answers and then answer their question. It's so much smoother, but it didn't. So let's just get started. And we're going to go into the first battle of today's match, and this question came up with it because we recently had the trailer for the 3rd Maze Runner movie release, and if you forgot that was a thing, I don't blame you.
Hey, those movies are okay.
It was a thing. I love the first 2, by the way.
Yeah, the first 2 movies are fine. This thing's going to bomb hard, right? Like, we are all in agreement that this is going to bomb terribly.
It's the last one, so I'm just thankful. It didn't end up like Divergent.
I don't know. But so we thought we'd ask the question, the best young adult franchise. And Subrath, you are going to start this question off, man. Go ahead with your opening statement. What is the best young adult franchise?
Well, this franchise has been with me since my childhood. I mean, the first time I watched it was on a pirated copy of a DVD, which my cousin gave it to me. I mean, basically she just said, go watch this. Then after I watched it, it basically, it was something new. It was something people didn't really expect. And after after multiple sequels of it, people couldn't really get enough. And they got a spin-off, which has 2 more sequels coming. I mean, coming next year and 2 years after that. I'm talking about the Harry Potter franchise. I mean, yeah. I'll end it at that for now. I'll end it.
All right, and Drake, go ahead and give your opening statements. What is the best young adult franchise?
All right, the best young adult franchise I picked is The Hunger Games. And not going to lie, I did have Harry Potter as my first choice. But then I looked and Hunger Games, and then I did some research, and it's actually outgrossed the highest Harry Potter grossing film. Catching Fire and the original Hunger Games grossed more than Deathly Hallows Part 2. And that kind of surprised me, but that just shows that like more people want to go see the Hunger Games compared to Harry Potter, and I thought that was interesting. I think there's a lot more action in the Hunger Games than in Harry Potter, and there are a few movies in that franchise, and I'll get more into that, but there are a few movies in there that just don't do it for me. But there's my opening statements for the Hunger Games.
All right, and with that, guys, we're going to go ahead and get into the fight. Because this is the first fight of the match, you guys are going to get 6 minutes on the clock to argue it out. We have Harry Potter versus the Hunger Games, the most two obvious choices we could get. But which one is the better young adult franchise? Guys, go ahead, start arguing.
I'll let Drake start first, because I don't really get why he thinks that Hunger Games is a lot better than Harry Potter, even though the fan base has shown that people really do believe in Harry Potter more than they did with Hunger Games. Hunger Games destroyed themselves by putting out 2-part sequels for the last movie. Like, basically, for the last movie, they used 2 movies.
And Harry Potter did the same thing as well.
I mean, basically, it was necessary, because if you have bought the Deathly Hallows book, it's a very long book, and if you just force it all in one movie, it was necessary. Harry Potter is the one who started all this, and it was just copied by Twilight, and then copied by I forgot Hunger Games, Mockingjay Part 1, Mockingjay Part 2, and then it got followed again by Divergent, which worked thankfully. So, yeah, I'll let you continue.
Okay, I see your points. The Hunger Games, I think, is a step above Harry Potter just because the stakes are so much higher. I think it's literally a fight to the death. And I know Harry Potter has a whole thing with Voldemort throughout the entire series, but the Hunger Games is just action straight away. And the first and the second one's the best one. The second one especially, there's a lot of great action in the second one. And splitting it up into 2 parts, I think it's also necessary for the Hunger Games. If you see the trajectory of the story, they kind of needed to do 2 parts in order for that film franchise to work out too. I don't think they could have fit everything into number 3. And just going to throw out there, I think Goblet of Fire is the worst out of all of them. I was just kind of bored in Goblet of Fire. Except
Goblet
for
of Fire is the best
last
one.
15-20 minutes were pretty good. But
this might not be my personal opinion, but Goblet of Fire is one of the best Harry Potter movies ever there. Put it there with
Prisoner of Azkaban.
Put it there with Philosopher's Stone. Put it there with Order of the Phoenix, which I think is the number 1 movie of that franchise. But I mean, Hunger Games, basically, if you just said that they could do, and they could not do without the 2-parter for their last movie. I think they could, because the first part of the Mockingjay film literally just bored the shit out of me. I mean, they could have cut out a lot of those movies and put them in the second movie. In the second part, and it's just gonna be like a 3-hour movie. It's still gonna be a lot more enjoyable than I'm seeing. Like, okay, I have to wait until next year for a second part. But like, it's a bit disappointing when they announced that for the first time. They say that they want to do it 2-part. It's just basically copying Harry Potter. Harry Potter was necessary because the first part of Deathly Hallows was not. It was not boring like Hunger Games film. It was more entertaining actually. It gave a lot of depth. It allows you to build up before Voldemort final showdown with Harry Potter. I'll let you continue.
Okay. I think Harry Potter is definitely the most obvious choice and the most popular choice. But I think if we're talking overall better film franchise, I think The Hunger Games is above Harry Potter, just because I think it has more consistency. I think The Prisoner of Azkaban and then Goblet of Fire, like I said, I didn't really enjoy. And then it goes to The Order of the Phoenix. Those 2 movies right there, and then the 2-parters to end, those are the best in the franchise. But if you just have the 4 with The Hunger Games, I know you said that the second part wasn't really necessary, but if those 4 just go straight into action.
No, I say the first part was not necessary. I say that. I mean, I told you, like, basically most of the first part, they can just cut it out. All the dialogues, all the boring dialogues, they could just cut it out and put the rest of that first part into the second one. And then it could just be like at the end of the first movie where they close up to Julianne Moore's face, and after she announced that she wants to go to war or something, and then they could not. They will not end the movie there. They will just continue on from where the second part starts off. They could just do that, and people would not need to wait for like one more year for another movie to come out, which was not necessary. I mean, if you want to counter argue against Harry Potter, it was necessary for them to do two-parter, because even J.K. Rowling said it. Like, you can't do this movie for if you want to make this movie, you can't do it. You can't shove it all in one movie. You have to do it two-parter. That's all.
I think that's all I have, Aaron. How much more time do we have?
You guys had 35 seconds. I'll cut it early, though. We'll go to closing arguments if you guys are good. Subrath, since you started, you're going to go first on the closing arguments. Go ahead.
So since we're talking about like best young adult franchise of all time, I mean, basically that's what Harry Potter is. Harry Potter like basically breaks literally the genre of fantasy and basically magic itself. Before Harry Potter, we only view wizards and witches as from the movie Wizard of Oz. Like basically, the witch is evil and the wizard is basically the Wizard of Oz. And I mean, that's basically outdated. And basically, with Harry Potter, at least we got an update to that genre of magic, of people playing with their wands, like magic and all. And after 8 movies, I can just say like this is basically the best, not just the best franchise, it's basically the best thing that happened to all of us, people who loves this franchise. Even all the fan base. I mean, they opened because of this franchise is so famous, they have a Universal Studio. I'm not if you can fact check it, if it's on Walt Disney World or Universal Studio, they have their own.
It's Universal. I live in Florida. It's Universal.
Universal. I went to Florida too, but I just forgot it. I mean, does Hunger Games have their own theme park? That's why I mean, is it that famous to the point they have their own theme park? They don't have that. I mean, it's not. I mean, we are still talking about the movie itself, but still, from that movie, people can see that this is so good that I think we should make it a theme park. See, like how much money we can make, and Harry Potter was a success. Hunger Games was just like basically like if you put Twilight into a post-apocalyptic world without the vampires element to it. That's basically because what ruins the Hunger Games franchise, the romance, the how you say it, triangle thing, the love triangle between Peter and Liam Hemsworth's character. What's his name?
Yeah.
Gale.
Gale and Katniss. That's those. I mean, this is the one that's unnecessary if you want to make it a really better franchise than Harry Potter. Love triangles destroys everything. I mean, look at Twilight. Look at how it turned out. They could just leave Bella and to be with Edward, but you have to put Jacob in it for some reason. I mean, it's really unnecessary. So Hunger Games is about, like you say, it's about post-apocalyptic world. Like, why is Katniss too busy regarding who should I end up with? Should be Peter? Should it be Gale? I mean, that's really unnecessary. You have this whole thing that's more important regarding the. Wait, what's the President Snow? That's more important than too busy about your love life, which is where Harry Potter. He did not have any sort of like love triangle thing besides him kissing Ginny after like so many movies. But then that's already after so many movies. You build up all the characters, you build up everything. So it's time for them to experience something like, which is love. That one I would agree.
All right, is that everything?
Yeah.
All right, Drake, go ahead. Closing arguments.
Okay. Picking up on what you said in the middle there, that it kind of started this whole trend and it made wizards and everything cool again. I think it's definitely a pop culture phenomenon how Harry Potter like blew up and everything. But since we're talking, I think the better film franchise, and also Harry Potter has a leg up because it had 8 total movies and Hunger Games only had 4. So it does kind of have a leg up to build those characters up over time. But I just think the first 2 Harry Potter movies are a little slow, and the third one's really good. And like I said, I didn't like the 4th one. But I just think there's too much inconsistency in that franchise, and I will agree with you partly that part 1 we could have put more into part 2 and just made it 1. However, I think the first 2 movies by far are better than any Harry Potter movie. There's so much. The stakes are so much higher than battling a professor or somebody at the end like they always do in every single movie. And then you mentioned the spinoff. The spinoff was awful, and I really wish they weren't making more. But there's talks about Hunger Games spinoff as well. So
I hope that does not happen.
Hopefully those are good. I would like to see if they went back before, like how the Hunger Games actually started. I think that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah.
All right, is that everything?
Yeah.
All right, cool. So the only quick fact check I'll pull up on you is you talked about the box office at the start, and yes, you are correct. Actually, not 1, but 2. Both the first 2 Hunger Games movies outgrossed all the Harry Potter films domestically. Nationally, the highest grossing of both franchises is Deathly Hallows Part 2, which is in the $1 billion club. And I'll double check it real quick, but I do not believe Hunger Games has one that's made over $1 billion. But I'll yeah, I don't see one that's made over $1 billion. So domestically, yes, you are correct. It did earn more. Okay, so that was a decent fight. Bit of a slow start from both of you, but that's okay. Every fighter is a little different. Not everyone's high energy and screaming. Subrath, I did like most of your closing. I thought you really came in strong there in the closing. I do think Drake has a point of talking about the theme park and the fan base doesn't necessarily affect the movie franchise itself, because Twilight also had a very rampant fan base, and I think we can all agree that is. So it was a good try, but I think he did hit back on that. But while I did like your closing a lot, I have to give the point to Drake because I think throughout most of the fight, he had you a leg up on every single point you made. And he was able to get more hit-offs against Harry Potter than you were against Hunger Games. Specifically in the fact that most of your criticism focused on only 2 films out of 4, whereas Drake was a little more varied in where he was hitting. So that's why I'm giving the first point to Drake. But it was definitely a good fight on both of you.
I mean, at least it's a lot better than the fight I had with Evan.
Yeah, like that fight was already 10 times better than your first match, so it's a good start. And with that being said, we are going to move into question number 2. And this question, we've had a lot of movies come out recently that are based on old, kids' properties, and we have like Power Rangers, and we have My Little Pony coming up, and we have we just had a Lego movie come out, and we had OG movie come out, so a mixture of good and bad in there. But we've had a lot of kids' properties get adapted recently. So I thought I'd ask the question, what is the best movie based on a kids' show? And we are going to let Drake go first on this one. Drake, what is your pick and opening arguments?
Okay, my pick for best movie based on a kids' property is How the Grinch Stole Christmas, the 2000 version directed by Ron Howard, with obviously Jim Carrey. This was back right when Jim Carrey was hitting his stride with.
I'm sure he was very prideful too.
Yeah, well, he's something else today too. But anyways, it was back when Jim Carrey is in his heyday, and he's hitting home runs left and right. And then he comes out with this kids Christmas feel good movie, and it's just all around. Jim Carrey brings his Jim Carrey-ness to the role, and it's just a really fun part for him to play. And Ron Howard directs it, so that's pretty cool. So those are my opening arguments for How We Didn't Stole Christmas.
All right, and Subrath, go ahead and give your opening arguments.
I mean, basically, I think basically I might have just won this point, by the way, because the movie that I picked based on a TV show is, I mean, the TV show was not just a TV show, normal TV show, kids TV show. It was also a global phenomenon. It was not just famous in the US, it was famous worldwide. I mean, basically, I mean, it copied a little bit of the original one from Japan, which is called something else. But this movie that came out this year, earlier this year, it was so underrated, and it was so, I mean, how much it earned literally just breaks my heart, because I was really a big fan of this series when I was a kid. And the basically movie I'm talking about based on a TV show, a kids TV show, is none other than Power Rangers. Yeah.
All right, and with that, we're going to go ahead and get into the arguments here. You guys will have 5 minutes on the clock, and before we do, Subrath, the series you were talking about is Super Sentai. That's what Power Rangers is based off.
Yeah, I know. I was getting to that.
Okay, sorry, because you didn't say the name, so I just wondered if you forgot. And also, I'm going to say this before we start the match, because I don't want you to get lost on it here. You're arguing about the movie itself, not the popularity of the brand, because your argument got lost a little bit in that last fight, and popularity doesn't necessarily validate quality. So just make sure you don't get lost in that too much. So I'm just giving you the warning beforehand.
Okay, so
all right.
I'll just talk
you guys are gonna have
the fan base. Yeah.
Have 5 minutes. When you start talking, I'll start the clock.
Either one go first.
It's okay. I'll let you go first.
Okay. Well, Power Rangers show I actually did like as a kid. I did watch it as a kid as well. Those were really fun and campy, kind of those kind of series. And then I was actually pretty excited because the trailers looked great to see this new Power Rangers movie. And for the first half, it was actually pretty good. I thought they built up the characters really well. Bryan Cranston in there was pretty cool. But then the movie completely just falls apart when Rita Repulsa comes in. And for the TV show, that does work because it's a campy kind of, that's just how the show is. But for the tone that they were building for Power Rangers with the characters, I think Rita Repulsa just comes, she's in a whole nother movie to me. And the product placement also in that movie is just weird. But I don't know. I just think Power Rangers started really well and then just got bad when Rita Repulsa came in. So,
I mean, you can't have a better ad placement than that one, which is like basically. I mean, I laughed in that scene. I mean, like that's brilliant. But basically, I know what you mean. The TV show was campy and all, and this they tried something a little bit different. And Rita Repulsa character, you can't change that character. I mean, if you basically change that, you're making it into another character. That's why Elizabeth Banks acted that way, because that's literally the whole character of Rita Repulsa. She overacts. She does all these things. That's why people love her in the TV show. And Elizabeth Banks was just doing what the previous actress did back in the day. And this movie was, I mean, we're talking about still the movie, not just one character. And the movie, your movie, The Grinch, it was called The Grinch. It was not called, was it called How the Grinch Stole
How the
Christmas?
Grinch Stole Christmas.
Yeah, the full title is How the Grinch Stole Christmas.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, that movie was a bit weird for me because, like, it all looks like it's taken place inside a studio. You could really literally see it. I mean, the set looks fake. Everything looks fake. I mean, but you have to. I have to admit the prosthetics they put on Jim Carrey was really good. I mean, it was really accurate towards the, the cartoon series of the Grinch, and yeah, I mean, he gave the best performance. But overall, the movie was a bit more boring. At least Power Rangers they had character building, which I don't think Grinch had one. I mean, Power Rangers they had all these characters, all these you have the Red Ranger, Yellow Ranger, Pink, Black, Blue. If I'm not correct, that's all five. Um, you have all of them, all these five kids from different backgrounds. You get their backstories, and that's how you make a bad movie. I mean, most of the movie, that's what I mean. Ruins the whole experience of the movie. Basically, they spent a lot of time building the character, and they had only little bit of time to have all the action, all the CG action of Power Rangers, and I thought they could just do a little bit longer for that one. But still, I think this movie is a lot better than the Grinch.
Okay. For you said it didn't really have the Grinch didn't follow anybody. It kind of follows the little girl Cindy, and her family, but mostly her and how she goes and meets the Grinch, and that's kind of where the plot kicks in. And you said the set looks fake. To be honest with you, I haven't seen it in a little bit, so I don't know if that holds true.
It does. You should see it again. It does look fake. It's like they do it on a low budget thing. Like you can really see that. I mean, when I saw this movie, I mean, did they really did this inside a studio, or did they really go outside in the snowy condition? Because most of the movie takes place in the snow city or something. I forgot the name of the city. But
Whoville.
it looks. Yeah, I mean, Whoville. I mean, even all the human characters, they all look short. I mean, basically, Grinch is like the tallest of them all, and he looks like a monster, of course. I mean, it all looks very unusual for a movie. So I'm not sure if it's because it's all Dr. Seuss.
Okay, guys. First off, that's time on the fight. The main fight is over, so you guys are each going to get a closing statement. Drake, you are going to go first on the closing arguments. Go ahead.
Okay. You mentioned it kind of looked weird. I just think that's part of the kookiness and like weirdness of Whoville, how everybody is, how everybody acts and dresses and everything. And I just like this movie, and I picked this movie because it's just a feel-good story about how, the Grinch, he hates Christmas and then meets this little girl, and she kind of opens his world up. It's just a nice feel-good, like sit down with your family around December and watch this movie, and everybody will have a good time. It's, and then Power Rangers, like I said, kind of just rehammering my earlier argument. I just think half of the Power Rangers movie does work, and then they just try something different, and that does work in the show. But when they set up something to be so cool, in my opinion, like I thought the character building was fantastic, and then they brought in Rita Repulsa, and I don't know, that just didn't work for me, and that kind of just took me out of the movie. That'll be my closing. Aaron.
All right, Subrath, go ahead.
All right, so basically, Power Rangers. I think I always talk about Power Rangers because, like in this day and age, Power Rangers is not that as popular as what people see it to. It was like back in the '90s. Like people are now more interested in what Teen Titans, Justice League animated series these days. But back in the '90s, that was the day. That was basically the '90s kids. I was a '90s kid, and I was really happy to see this this genre come back to life from what it was. I mean, I was really happy, and even still, there's some kids over here in this day and age who still enjoy that Power Rangers movie that came out in February. I'm talking about the movie that came out in February, and I really did feel like this movie impacted more on the like on the audience than what the Grinch did. I mean, maybe it did. I mean, I'm not sure how much did. I mean, how well did the Grinch do, but I don't think it did that well, if I'm not mistaken. But I mean,
Are you
basically,
talking box office wise?
I think both critically. I mean, if critically, I think
I have both of them pulled up, just so you know. So I'll fact check that at the end. I have both
okay.
of them pulled up.
Yeah, it's good to know. So like the only good part of the movie in The Grinch was basically Jim Carrey as the Grinch, and anything else when they move away from him to the girl and the family, it really didn't bring a lot of interest to basically not just to me, but maybe a lot of audience felt the same way. I'm not really that sure, but that movie was they could have done a lot better with The Grinch. But Power Rangers basically it's a well-made movie which didn't get a lot of attention. It came out literally just 1 week before the Beauty and the Beast, and it did not. I mean, wait, 1 week before or 1 week after? You can just
In America, it was 1 week after. In America, it was 1 week after.
and that basically that's what destroys it. That's the thing that you should not do. Don't release a movie a week after a really big movie came out. That's what the mistake Lionsgate did to Power Rangers. I mean, that's the end of my argument.
Okay. Yeah. So just to fact check the critical and financial success on both these movies. For Grinch, the budget was $123 million, and it made 345.1 mil at the box office.
Bam.
Reception-wise, it has a 53% on Rotten Tomatoes. However, it was nominated for Best Costume Design, Best Art Direction, and Best Makeup. At the Academy Awards that year. Power Rangers has a 44% on Rotten Tomatoes. Obviously, we don't know if it'll get nominated for anything of VFX-wise because the Oscars have not happened for this year. But the movie itself cost $100 million and only made $142.3. Speaking, Power Rangers is considered a box office failure. By the time we subtract what the theaters make off of that and what the marketing was for the film, because those are not included in the numbers, Power Rangers is actually a failure for the studio unless DVD sales did that well that it saved them.
Yeah.
But overall, again, it was an okay round on both your guys' part. Unfortunately, again, I think I'm gonna have to give the point to Drake, just because Subrath, he did a good job at hitting back everything that. Again, he did a great job at hitting back everything that you put against him. And also, there was a good chunk of your argument was focused on the aesthetic of the film. Did get the hit back on that of the aesthetic was the point of the film, like that was on purpose, the way that it looked. So unfortunately, that's just maybe a lack of knowing or not knowing the movie well on your part, which can happen to anybody. I'm gonna have to give Drake the second point in this match.
Okay.
Good fight. Good fight.
I think you deserve this one, which is weird.
All right. And with that, we are going to get into the third argument of the match.
I like this one.
And we're going to get just straight to it. The question is, what is the best director's cut of a movie? Subrath, you're going to be going first on this round. Go ahead with your opening statements. What is the best director's cut?
I mean, the movie I'm talking about literally had the same director. Had this movie had all? I mean, basically most of this movie, like basically cut down into small bits and pieces. The latest one was basically the most iconic. I mean, this is my opinion. The most iconic superhero movie of all time. I mean, but I'm talking about another superhero movie he did back in the day, back in 2009. I'm talking about Watchmen, the director's cut. Right, that's all.
Okay. Drake, go ahead and give your opening statements.
Okay. I had a little bit of difficult time with this question, but I decided to end up with Batman vs. Superman. Overall, what director's cut, in my opinion, should do, well, there can be multiple cuts, but I think it should make the movie better and feel more full. And I think that's definitely it upgrades Batman vs Superman. Because when I saw it, I thought it was okay. It was fine. I didn't hate it. I didn't love it. It was fine. Ultimate Edition, I think, bumps it up a full letter grade for me. There's just so much more with Superman, and I'll get into all that. Those are my opening statements for Batman v Superman.
We're going to go to the fight. Once again, guys, you're going to have 5 minutes on the clock to argue it out. Time starts when one of you begins speaking.
So you go first for this one.
Okay. So you picked Watchmen.
Yeah.
Watchmen's very fresh in my mind, as I just saw it today to prepare for the fight. And I thought overall that was actually pretty fun, very cool looking movie. And then I picked up on the director's cut, what was on there, and I just think there's more. There's something I didn't like in the movie, and it's just personal. But there's just more stuff that I don't think that we need. As for example, Dr. Manhattan. There's more scenes with him, referring to him as like a godlike figure, or like a Jesus or something like that. That was already touched on several times in the film. I just don't think we need to go back there again. As far as Batman v Superman, you get more Clark Kent being Clark Kent, actually going to Gotham and, doing his reporting and everything like that. And one of my favorite scenes, it's towards the beginning of the movie. It's the desert scene where Lois Lane's there and Superman has to come save her, pretty much. And they extend that scene, and I think that that really helped it out because that was one of my favorite scenes, and it just added more depth. And
just to let you know that, basically, what Zack Snyder did to both Dr. Manhattan and Superman is basically make them both like godlike heroes, which is what Dr. Manhattan is. If you look in the comics, Dr. Manhattan still thinks of himself. He didn't say it out loud. He said to himself, "I'm like a god to all these people." Even to his partner or wife,
yeah,
he said that I'm like a god. I'm like a god to her. But then he said to her that I'm not a god. But I'm not. I mean, he said to her he's not a god, but deep down inside, he still thinks that he's a god. He does not regard any human. That's basically the point of character of Doctor Manhattan.
I get that. Just real quick. I get that part, and there's a lot of examples of that with Superman and BVS. But I just think there was already enough in the movie about how he was like a godlike figure, and just adding the extra scenes in the director's cut, I just didn't think it was really necessary. Just made an already very long movie even longer.
Yeah, just the difference between Doctor Manhattan and Superman themselves. Like Superman, he cares about human beings. Doctor Manhattan does not really that. Well, he does not really care about human beings. He just want to do things that basically benefits himself. If you see in the movie, and the director's cut basically explains more of that than theatrical cut, which is I'm just gonna get into the differences between the theatrical cut and the director's cut. Basically, the theatrical cut in the beginning of the movie, I mean, it had after the comedian died, I mean, Rorschach was there, but he didn't. Well, he was not discovered by a cop, so if I'm not mistaken. But in the theatrical cut, it got a lot more interesting when the cops showed up to him. Basically discover him being there in the apartment and tries to knock him down, but then he knocks them down. And another thing that I like is I'm not sure if it's in the theater cut was when the comedian was in Vietnam, and the lady, the pregnant lady was there. Was it in the theater cut? You can just fact check it for me.
It is in the original as well.
Yeah, I don't really remember all of it, but yeah, I mean, it added more things too. I mean, right before that, it shows basically the comedian shooting basically everyone with just nothing but a smile. He's just happy to kill all the Vietnamese people over there, and it's really like shows that his character he's not a good guy, to be honest. Like people will from this standpoint, people see him as a bad guy instead of a good guy, and I'll let you can continue if you want to argue. There's not a lot of time.
Okay. I'll touch more on Watchmen. I think Watchmen, in parts, Watchmen was really good, but only in parts because I think that movie jumped around so much. They what good movies do well, you stay with a character and then you move on to another one. Like I just saw It recently. That they did that very well. They stayed with one character, moved on. This one does it way too much and it's way too jumbled. And there's a thing I picked up on in the movie. I know the comedian died throughout the entire movie about jokes, and there are so many cheesy lines that you almost feel like Zack Snyder's kind of
That's
pushing
the
that.
whole point of the movie. The movie takes place in the basically
Before we
1980s.
get into it, that time on the fight. It's time on the fight. So you guys are each going to get one more final statement. Subrath, you're up first.
I've not yet touched on Batman v Superman. The the difference between the Ultimate Edition and the theatrical cut, it basically just adds 30 minutes to the theatrical cut, which is the ultimate cut. And it didn't really affect the movie that much. Basically, you still have the martyr scene, which I have to admit it might be cringy, but I still think that might be a good scene. But it's still cringy at some point if you see it in a certain way. And it still has that point where Batman is killing these criminals, which is still debatable, but that's not basically what Batman is. And unless if you look at the Nolan trilogy, that's a different thing. But basically, Batman's code in the comics, he does not kill. And this Batman basically just went batshit crazy on those criminals, which I really feel sorry for them. Um, and I mean, basically, Watchmen, the extended cut, I mean, the director's cut, did way better than Batman v Superman did as a whole story in general because it explores more stories, more dialogues, it adds more action. I'm talking about Watchmen. It adds more action and basically shows that the superhero genre in Watchmen, I mean, the world of superheroes, it's how to destroy a superhero basically. That's what I see from the movie. It's how you deconstruct a superhero, how you destroy him, how you make him a human. Which Batman v Superman did not show like how Superman is like without his powers. He basically just show him kryptonite to his face and he's already like weak. It didn't do much in the Ultimate Edition for me. But Watchmen, it's a whole different movie. It's like it's way ahead of its time. And I think Zack Snyder should not have had the theatrical cut release. It should be his vision. It's his vision. But Warner Bros. Yeah, well, what can you say about them? Like they basically did that to him 3 times, basically. Like already, the first time they did to him was in basically Watchmen. The second time was in Sucker Punch, and now Batman v Superman. They chopped this movie up into pieces. I'll give it back to him. For you.
All right. If that's your closing finish, Drake, go ahead. Closing arguments.
Your point about his films being broken up, I think maybe that just has to do with. I mean, I enjoy Zack Snyder's movies, but maybe that's just a problem he has as a director, and maybe that's why there's so many of these cuts, because he just makes too long of a film. If you look at Batman v Superman, that I think the Ultimate Edition, you can fact check me, and I think that comes in at over 3 hours, and I know Watchmen. I'm pretty sure Watchmen does as well, both of them. So those are both director's cuts that are movies over 3 hours long.
What did you want me to fact check the runtime?
Yeah,
can you go?
Sorry?
I think Watchmen is a lot longer.
A lot longer, you said?
Yeah, it tells more stories. That's it.
You can continue your closing statement.
Okay. Okay. Continuing. I just think overall the scenes that were added in Batman v Superman benefited the movie more than the scenes added in Watchmen. And it just, for me, like I said, it's good in parts, but Watchmen as a film overall was fine. And just making it even longer, I was kind of waiting for the end at a certain point, and this would just make it so much longer. And plus, in Batman v Superman, I don't have to stare at a blue penis like the whole movie. So that's my closing argument.
All right. Just to do the quick fact check on the runtime, both are very similar. The Watchmen director's cut comes in at 3:06. The BVS director's cut comes in at 3:03. So they're 3 minutes. So basically just extra credits on one. They're about 3 minutes off. Subrath, when you were focused on the argument, I thought you were doing a really good job at arguing for your film and hitting against Drake's. The problem is I think you lost sight of the argument too much during that round. You spent a lot of time talking about comparison with Manhattan and Superman, which isn't something that necessarily what the fight is. A little bit on the end, and spent a little bit the Zack Snyder and his films getting cut up, which again doesn't necessarily relate fully to the argument, because we're just arguing about what's the better film and the improvements made. The problem is with so much of the argument being focused on other areas that are unrelated, I have to give the point to Drake again, just simply because he did get a good amount of defenses off against his movie and the changes that were made, but he was also focused on the argument, whereas you kind of lost sight at some points there for a little bit. So the point does go to Drake again.
Yeah, good fight.
It's a good fight. I actually kind of enjoyed watching.
Yeah.
I just had to.
I mean, like,
All right, so here's the position where we're at. Position where we're at now. We're going into the final fight, and Drake is currently up 3-0. So if Subrath wins this point, we go into the speed round, but Subrath has to win speed rounds to take the fight. If Drake wins this round, then it is a 4-0 knockout, and Subrath is knocked out of the match. We will not have a speed round. So it's Subrath. It's very important for you to bring your all on this fight and make sure that you stay focused on the fight and make sure everything you're saying counts, because you're fighting for your life here. With that being said, I asked this question because 10 years ago this weekend, the George Clooney film Michael Clayton came out. So I decided to ask, what is the best movie starring George Clooney? And Drake, you're going to go first on this one. What is the best movie starring George Clooney?
Best movie with George Clooney is Ocean's 11. Directed by Steven Soderbergh. Has a variety of Hollywood A-listers in there. Ocean's 11 it's just a really fun movie, and it's innovative in how they go in and take from Andy Garcia. And the entire cast, like I just said, is A-list top to bottom. I actually didn't even see Ocean's 11 until I saw Logan Lucky, and I liked that movie so much that I went back and I watched the entire trilogy of the Oceans. And Ocean's 11 and 13, I thought were the better films. Ocean's 12 is okay, but yeah, Ocean's 11 is my pick for best George Clooney movie.
All right, and Subrath, you're up next. Go ahead.
Well, this movie is the one that shot George Clooney into fame while he was doing ER, which is the TV series where he started his career from. And this movie is basically, I mean, I just saw it like last week just to prepare for this game, because I know this movie was really, like, some people say this is a really fun movie, you should really watch it. I watched it, and it's really a very unique type of film, because it starts off as a normal movie, but then it ends up as something else. I'm talking about From Dusk Till Dawn. Yeah, I'll just continue later.
Okay. And with that, guys, we're going to go ahead and go into the main round. You guys got 5 minutes on the clock. Go ahead and start.
Okay, I'll go first here. Ocean's 11, I think, is the premier, iconic George Clooney role. He's just so smooth and so suave in that role, and just the chemistry he has with Matt Damon and Brad Pitt especially, and they get the whole crew together, and it's just one of the most fun heist films I've ever seen. Also got the suggestion from the Top 10 show when they put it at, I think it was 2 or 1 of best heist films, and that's another reason why I wanted to see this movie. And to be honest with you, I didn't really like George Clooney before this. His films are fine. I just never I really want to see a George Clooney movie. But after Ocean's 11, I just want to see more and more. So I'll send it. You there?
Wait, sure. I'm there. Okay. So, Ocean's 11 is basically like after George Clooney has made several movies on his career. I'm talking about the movie which basically made him famous in the first place. He was just doing a regular TV show which is called the ER. It's a doctor's TV show, and all of a sudden he does this basically like cult fantasy film. Like it's not. At first it's like a normal heist movie where there's two criminals starring like basically George Clooney himself and Quentin Tarantino, and when they kidnap a former priest who does not believe in God anymore, but with his 2 kids, and basically they took a road trip to basically a strip club, which is called, I'm not gonna say the name. It's basically like that movie was basically so weird and it was so entertaining. It was so funny. Um, Yeah, that's basically George Clooney. I don't see him do that type of movie anymore. I think that movie was very special because George Clooney basically stepped out of his comfort zone to do that type of movie. I'll continue.
Okay, I think your point that's the one that kind of shot him into stardom. I could kind of agree with you, but I think it's like we're talking about the best overall movie. I think overall, Ocean's 11 just has the more complete.
I'll get to why From Dusk Till Dawn is a better movie.
Okay. I think Ocean's just has more fun with what it's trying to do than From Dusk Till Dawn does. And it's a very out there kind of plot, and it just starts one way and goes another. But I don't know, just the ride that Ocean's 11 takes you on, I think, is more fun than From Dusk Till Dawn. In my opinion.
Basically, Ocean's 11 has all the elements of typical heist film, where they have this group of people who are trying to rob a casino, and basically, like From Dusk Till Dawn, it's about two murderers, robbers, who kidnaps a lady from the bank, kills her, and moves on to this family of 3, and basically just took them to their date to the final spot, which is the strip club where they all had a massive massacre. 5 vampires. If you wouldn't believe, that movie has vampires in it. When it starts off like a typical Quentin Tarantino movie. Tarantino is in this movie. It's directed by Robert Rodriguez. It's basically his best friend. Robert Rodriguez, he does questionable movies from time to time, but this movie is very entertaining, and it has basically similar elements which what Ocean's 11 has, which is fun, and it has, basically lots of jokes in it. It has Quentin Tarantino imagining this young girl telling to, I'm not gonna say it here, but if you see the movie, you know why what he thinks that what she says to him. It's really weird and really gross, and yeah, that movie was literally just it made George Clooney look like basically the biggest badass in that movie. When Ocean's 11 is just him trying to be cool, and yeah, he's more seasoned as an actor in Ocean's 11, but I'm talking about Dusk Till Dawn, which is like where where do people
All right,
fight?
Subrath, just so you know, that is time on the argument, unfortunately. So Drake, you're gonna go first on the closing.
Okay. Closing statements here. The fact you made about Ocean's 11 and it's just George Clooney trying to be cool. I think I'd disagree with you there. I think this might be a weird comparison, but I feel like George Clooney in Ocean's 11 is the PG-13 version of Jordan Belfort in The Wolf of Wall Street. He's just so cool and suave, and he can do. I mean, everybody thinks Danny Ocean's the coolest guy in the room, and even when Andy Garcia knows what he's gonna do or knows that he's gonna mess with him, he still does it anyways, and he still gets away with it, and time after time. And I just think when you have superstars, especially today, now watching it today, looking back, like Casey Affleck and Matt Damon, Brad Pitt, Julia Roberts, I just think that Ocean's 11 is a better all-around film, and you have more fun with it than you would in Dusk Till Dawn.
All right, if that's it for closing, Subrath, go ahead.
Yeah, basically from Dusk Till Dawn, that movie was really, when it came out, people they don't know who George Clooney is. I mean, aside if they watched ER, which he's a main character, and that movie basically people know who George Clooney is from that movie on. You can't have Ocean's 11 without that movie coming on in the first place, because if you're talking about better film, yeah, Dusk Till Dawn is still the better film because it has comedy, it has all the elements, it has us seeing Harvey Keitel in a very different film from did Pulp Fiction come out like this time?
Sorry, repeat that again.
He was also in that other film by Pulp Fiction. He was in Pulp Fiction. I mean, I think it came out the same.
Pulp Fiction was 2 years prior to this film.
Yeah, 2 years prior. I mean, in that movie that's basically a Tarantino film, but he's in it, but he plays a very different role, which is a former minister who does not believe in God anymore, and you see the dialogue between him and George Clooney in that RV, and that's basically the whole point of this film, like how George Clooney was able to act like a very seasoned actor with Harvey Keitel, which is also a seasoned actor at the time, and that dialogue is the one that's the highlight of the movie for me. I mean, besides all the violence in the bar and where George Clooney was, he was literally a badass in that movie. I'm just surprised he doesn't do that type of movie again, besides Batman and Robin, which we'll not talk about for this argument. Yeah.
All right, is that it?
That's all. Yeah.
Okay. So the only real quick fact check I have is, and I'm not going to count this against you because Drake didn't mention it. I wouldn't say From Dusk Till Dawn is the film that launched George Clooney's career. The film only made $25.8 million at the box office.
But it made him a star. That's all.
Okay, opinion's opinion. I'm just saying I don't think it was like the smash hit that got him there. Also, the other fact check is, just because you wouldn't say it, I will. The name of the bar is Titty Twister. Is the name of the bar in the film. Hey man, you're either going to go there or you're not. All right, so that was a good fight from you guys. I'm struggling a little bit with this one just because I don't think either of you really gave a hit against the other person's film. It really was a lot of just talking about your own film and why your own film is so great, which is always good, but definitely a little bit of hit back against the other person's film helps. But off of that note, unfortunately, I am going to have to give the point to Drake again because he got more points off in defense of his film than Subrath did. I think part of that is you did lose sight for just a little bit when you spent a lot of time just kind of recounting the plot, which unfortunately isn't really a defense of your movie. You're just telling us what happened in it.
I would agree.
But yeah, no. So unfortunately, Drake is going to get the 4th point, which means, unfortunately for Subrath and fortunately for Drake, this is a 4-0 knockout. Drake is now 1 win, 1 knockout. Subrath is 0-2. Subrath, we'll go ahead and start with you on the closing thoughts, man. Again, I have to say, your first match, you've definitely improved a lot as a fighter. I definitely see some potential strengths there. The only thing I'd say maybe to watch or improve on in the future would be just be careful on staying a little more focused on what the fight is and not venturing off too much, because I think that hurt you multiple times tonight.
I think it did, yeah.
What do you have to say, man? What are your thoughts on the match, and what do you think about the future?
I mean, first of all, yeah, good game, Drake. I didn't really think that. I mean, before this movie, I didn't know what his strengths are. I mean, he really did give a good fight to me. I mean, yeah, I mean, I had all of the good choices for the questions, but it's the execution. Execution is always a problem for me. I mean, I still see I improved a lot. Way better than I did against Evan. I mean,
And
but
no,
still,
yeah, definitely. Like it was a harder match to judge. It's just unfortunately it was the losing focus is a big hurt, because the problem is when you only have so much time to put into an argument, if you start losing focus for too much of it, that gives Drake more time to come and hit you back and get that win. So what are your thoughts on the future, man? You look forward to coming back for another match, or?
You asking me?
Give me just a minute.
Okay. Good game, man.
Wait, are you asking Subrath or are you asking myself, Aaron?
I'm talking to you. Aaron is left for 1 second. Drake, you there?
Yeah, you here?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
Aaron left just for 1 second.
Oh, okay. Yeah, good game, man. I thought you might have had me on that last question.
Yeah, I mean, basically all the choices I had was basically it looks good. I mean, for me, but I just think that how am I supposed to execute all of this? These are all good choices. I should not butcher all of it, and I butchered Harry Potter, which I might not get off easy with. If people watch me fight, they would see like I mean, this guy does not deserve to choose Harry Potter. He should just quit.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Because then I looked around and I wasn't gonna pick Twilight or The Maze Runner. I was like, Hunger Games. But yeah, Harry Potter, dude, that was tough to go up against.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's all the execution. It all comes down to execution. This is not movie trivia where you just answer a question. You should do a lot more than that. That's why this league is more interesting in some way.
Yeah.
Just waiting for Aaron.
I'm not too good at movie trivia, but I do like to watch the Schmodown and stuff like that.
Yeah. But you took part in one match against Aaron.
Yeah, I mean, he had to bring that up at the beginning.
But that match itself, I mean, I watched that match, and basically most of the question was really tough. Even I couldn't answer most of it.
Yeah, they were really tough.
Yeah, and that was before my match. So coming into my first debut match against Malcolm, I was like, oh shit, they're gonna ask me all these tough questions. I'm just gonna get knocked out. But no.
What's going on, guys?
No, I was just talking.
I'm talking about trivia how you beat me and how I hate you.
Oh. All right, I'll take it. I got beat eventually. All right. I'll start the count back in. All right.
Wait, who's going? Right. Who's talking first?
Subrath, did you have anything more to say, or do you want me just to jump directly to Drake?
Just jump right to Drake. Just give him.
All right.
He deserves the spotlight.
2, 1. All right, and with that said, let's go ahead and jump over to Drake, our champion today, man. How you feeling?
Feeling good. I'm actually surprised I got this 4-0 W, but it feels good to do, and definitely looking forward to doing it again.
So here's the interesting thing with that knockout. So you now join a club that is only 4 people. You have Evan DeGraff.
Oh, Evan.
You have Isaac Horvat, and you have Linus Babcock. 4 people and yourself now. Only 4 people have ever gotten a knockout. So you have the potential right now, when you play your next opponent, if you can manage a knockout against them, become possibly one of the highest players in the league, because Evan's already played his second match. He's 1-1. He unfortunately lost to Luka. Okay? But Isaac and Linus play each other in their next match. So there's no way a knockout's coming out of that match, in my opinion. And one of them is going to go 1-1. Once you get your next opponent, however down the road when that may be, you have a possibility, if you can get a knockout, of really boosting yourself up there in the rankings, man. You looking forward to it?
Yeah, definitely looking forward to a new set of questions to argue with, and maybe getting to the speed round, seeing how I can do in there as well. Yeah, this is fun, and I'd like to do it again whenever the opportunity presents itself. But 1-0 with a knockout feels pretty good. And Subrath had a lot of great points, especially Harry Potter. I thought for sure I was going to lose that one, but I pulled out enough good points. But he made a lot of good points in his Harry Potter argument and in his Power Rangers argument. So he put up a really good game too.
Yeah, and we'll keep it on you for a minute, Drake. Is there anywhere people can find you at?
You can find me on Twitter at the Frems Critic, just like that. And you can find me coming back here soon for another knockout. All
right. And Subrath, is there anywhere people can find you?
Well, you could find me on the Facebook page where you can just make fun of me on this match whenever it comes out. I mean, yeah, basically that's where you can find me. Don't add me on Facebook. I don't like strangers.
All right, and with guys, you guys can find me on Instagram at Aaron T. Canole. If you guys are not subscribed to the channel, please subscribe. Also, like and comment on this video. If you guys are not a part of the Movie Battleground Facebook page, that is really the only way you can ever get on a list to play a match down the road. We put up a lot of new posts updating some things in the league, making some changes here or there. We added a new admin. The previously mentioned Linus Babcock's now an admin for the league. So we have a lot of new exciting things happening here at Movie Battleground. And if you guys are viewing this and not on the Facebook page, that is the way you guys can get involved with it. We have 2 matches a week now. We have more team matches coming. We have a Marvel match, a DC match, a Halloween match, a Star Wars match. All sorts of crazy things happening. The way you can get the look in on when it's happening and if you can be involved is if you're in that Facebook page. So definitely join Movie Battleground on Facebook. Like I said, for Drake Froemsdorf, for Subrath Sharma, for all the other admins, Matt Beer, Evan DeGraff, and Linus Babcock, my name is Aaron Canole. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time on the Movie Battleground.
Peace.